Diddy Trial Day 6 afternoon update. We will get right into it. It began with the cross-examination of Cassie's friend, or former friend, Kerry Morgan. And this was done by Mark Agnifilo. He's one of Diddy's main attorneys. He seems like a really approachable, regular, nice guy. Not too slick, not too gotcha. He shared some laughs with Kerry Morgan on the stand. Even at one point, Diddy laughed when he kind of started off by saying, I'm going to get you out of here very quickly and then you can go enjoy the sunshine. And he says things like, without being Captain Obvious, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, that's interesting. But, it seemed to work. He was effective. And he started off by kind of referencing the direct testimony of Kerry Morgan, where she said that Diddy controlled Cassie's life, her career, and, she didn't put out many albums and this and that. Well, he says, didn't Diddy put her in studio with some bigger names, so to get her exposure, etc. And I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say to get her exposure, but, and he named, Kid Cudi, Lil Wayne, and Kerry's like, I don't remember. And then he's like, well, who do you remember? And then Kerry said, Fabulous, Too Tall, French Montana. And then she referenced this mixtape that Cassie did, and Diddy kind of shook his head. And Agnifilo went back to the hammer and the door testimony that she gave about March 6, 2016. And he kind of said, did anyone take a picture of the door? Did anybody tell the police about the hammer or what happened when they came 3 hours later? And Kerry Morgan still said she didn't know who called the police. She just thought someone called the police because of noise. And then he went in to say, did the police see Cassie's eye, her black eye that you testified about? And she said, yeah, they saw it. Cassie was on the couch and Cassie would not, or said she didn't have her ID. They asked her for her ID, the police, and she said, she lost it. But she didn't want to give her name and she didn't want to say what happened or file a police report. So they left. And he showed the sergeant's card again and just kind of said, why do you think they left the card and blah, blah, blah. And she didn't really have too much to say about that. But I think that his whole point was to try to minimize the hammer on the door. And, I didn't say this earlier, but sometimes I wonder, or maybe I did, but we're talking a lot about violence and things, and this was mainly in the direct examination, but the jury didn't seem to have much of a reaction about this violence towards Cassie. So I'm wondering if they're getting desensitized or they just really are listening intently. So we go to the wooden hanger incident. And this is what ended Cassie and Kerry Morgan's friendship. And she basically said that Diddy walked into Cassie's house and they were sitting at the table. And by the way, Mark Agnifilo asked her if they were doing drugs or drugs were on the table, and she said no. And I went back and to my notes, and Cassie actually said that they were doing drugs or drugs were on the table. Anyway, she said that he walked in and he was like, who is she cheating on me with? Like, meaning Cassie. And then he grabbed her by the throat, Kerry Morgan, and then hit her on the head with this wooden hanger. And she said that she went to the urgent care. He brought up a government transcript that said, this says you went to the hospital. And she's like, urgent care. It's the same thing. Sorry. And he said, did anyone take pictures of this injury, with the hanger? And she's like, I did, but I don't have them. He's like, so the urgent care didn't take them? And she's like, no. And then we hear about why their friendship ended and about this settlement that Cassie had paid her. And there's a lot more context here. I was like, okay, this makes a lot more sense to me now. I'm understanding what happened. So after this incident occurred, Cassie didn't really think it was a big deal, according to Kerry Morgan. That's what Kerry Morgan said, and this is what ended their friendship, because she was like, kind of like a get over it type of thing. And this is me talking, not her, I'm paraphrasing. But Kerry kind of thought that Cassie took Diddy's side and not hers. And I just remember that Cassie testified in 2018 that they had broken up, she and Diddy. However, they were on again, off again. And Agnifilo got Kerry to say that Cassie was cheating on Diddy during this time and he found out. So I thought that was interesting as well, because, according to Cassie the other day, they weren't together. However, I think that these lines are very, very blurred based on their relationship. So I guess Kerry got a lawyer at this point and she was gonna, file a lawsuit. And then Cassie had this meeting with her at a pizza place where, well, according to Kerry, they had a meeting at a pizza place, and she was like, I would like you to sign this NDA, and Sean Combs will offer you XYZ in cash. And Kerry Morgan said she decided to do that, and she got $30,000 and had to sign an NDA, and she told her lawyer, never mind. But she still hasn't talked to Cassie since then. And, and like, it was also kind of like a weird moment because she was asked, well, you know, why haven't you guys kind of like rekindled? I mean, she's not with Sean Combs. She's moved on. This is what Agnifilo's saying. She has kids now. And Kerry Morgan's like, well, she could have called me too. And then she kind of said, oh, well, I'm sure, you know, her number has changed by now or something like that. It was just an odd moment. But there was something else. Kerry Morgan talked about the jealousy, Cassie's jealousy, because again, this is what the defense really wants to hammer home. Oh, Cassie was so jealous. Was she jealous of Kim Porter? And Kerry Morgan says, yes, she was jealous of Kim Porter because she couldn't go to these New Year's Eve celebrations. That was very brief. And then they kind of went to Gina. And if you guys remember Gina Hun, or I feel like I'm mispronouncing that, sorry. She was this fitness influencer, she is, and she dated Diddy on and off. And I saw her in a podcast a while ago where she alleged some violence, but she has been rumored to be victim 4, I believe. And again, rumored, this is not confirmed, but I have heard buzz of this, and she was the one that maybe they couldn't get in touch with. But I got to find exactly what Kerry said because it was a moment. So she said that... Okay, she said that Gina, quote, was the big problem that wouldn't go away, and then she referred to her as a, quote, little girl. She said he had this full-on relationship with this little girl, and Agnifilo's like, okay, she's an adult, like, let's not, and Kerry's like, yeah, she's an adult. So they talk about Gina, and then Kerry Morgan, like, lets it slip, like, Gina was pregnant, and then Agnifilo was like, and she's like, oh, sorry, and then he quickly moved on. That was an awkward moment. I felt like we were kind of like looking at each other in the courtroom, like, okay. So, I mean, that's the gist of it. And then we got to David James, the personal assistant, who looked very nervous walking in, very nervous. When he got to the stand, he had some tears. And just for reference, he worked for Diddy from May 2007 to May 2009. And when he had the tears first, he was talking about getting the job and how he sat down with the head of HR at Bad Boy Records. Her name was Vashta. And he said, she told me at the interview, she pointed to a picture of Diddy. And she said, this is Mr. Combs's kingdom. We are here to serve him. And he kind of like cried, took a tissue. Sorry, I feel like I smile sometimes and it's just my face. I can't help it. I'm not smiling. I don't mean to smile. So he also talked about like some interview questions he answered and how when he answered like, why do you want to be a personal assistant? He answered the first question, like, you know, like you would in an interview. The second one, he said, I also told him I can't stop, won't stop. And Mr. Combs like shook his head, yes. And I looked over at Diddy and he was like shaking his head, like in agreement. David James told us about how they worked, being an assistant at Bad Boy and just his staff in general. He basically testified that he like sometimes worked from 8 a.m. to 4 a.m. and he made $70,000. And he sometimes got overtime. They didn't tell us how much, but he testified that his day-to-day was that he would arrive at Diddy's house before he wakes for a successful day. He would put like files of business docs out so he could review or sign. He would put his calendar out, his bookings out. He would then put the TV on to his preferred channel. He would work with the chef for Diddy's breakfast to make sure it was good. He would knock on Diddy's door to see if he was ready to wake up, get security ready, get out the door, accompany him to everything he had that day, then dinner, whether it be personal or, you know, whatever. Then they would go to the studio. And then after studio, it would be like whatever was going on. We didn't hear many details about that. But then he said they would figure out the call time to know when to be back the next day. And he would text this out to all the security guards. He talked about seeing one of the security guards carry a knife. He talked about spending time with Cassie and how Cassie said that she really couldn't leave Diddy because she was kind of stuck there. He paid for everything. And he discussed a couple girlfriends, Kim Porter, Sarah, Tara, Yana, and Cassie. more tomorrow. I'm sure I left stuff